Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest here today. Actor, producer. Right, you are a man of many hats, my brother.
Thank you.
Vermeeren. Clap it in, clap it in. Now,
Thank you.
I gotta stop my applause right here. Wait a minute. How do you correctly say your last name again?
Vermeeren, just like the Dutch
Vermeeren.
painter.
Let me.
Got it.
Vermeeren. Oh, so I said it.
Vermeeren.
Vermeeren. There we go. There we got. There we go. There we go. Another round of applause. I got it right. Man, thank you again, sir, for joining us this morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's good to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk and let's find out who is Mr. Douglas, man. So the mother of all questions, the very, very first question, what got you started on your journey?
You know, it was kind of funny because it was a bit accidental. So realistically, like I didn't know anything about film when I got started. I was just a kid. My very first TV appearance, I was actually in the audience on a kids show when I was 5. So I was in the audience. I just didn't know what was going on. And tell you the truth, the best part of that day is at the end, they brought in McDonald's cheeseburgers for all the kids as a sort of a end of the session kind of thing. So that was sort of my first glance at being on TV. And then when I was 7, I actually was on a thing for CBC, an after school special in Canada. And my mom got me that. My mom helped me get my first agent. And the thing that was kind of cool about that day is that my grandpa took me on the set. So I got to spend a lot of the day with him. And again, I still didn't really know what was going on, but they had donuts at the craft services table, right? So it was like, this is cool, right? And then, of course, as I got older and started to see like movies that I liked and enjoyed and that were thrilling, I kind of had this weird aha that I had been involved in making movies just like this. And so I got hooked from an early age. Definitely was cool.
That's awesome, man. Now, is it true that you used to skip school to get on set? Is that right?
And to get those donuts, man.
Hey, man.
Hey. Right? But yeah, actually, I did skip school all the time, and I was kind of a bad kid because I'd influence others sometimes to come with me, which was awesome. So, but yeah, totally true story.
Awesome, man, love it.
Now we ask actors all the time what it's like to see themselves on the screen for the first time, but tell us what it's like seeing yourself, on the front cover of famous magazines.
You know what's so hilarious is I just got a couple, like I was just on the cover again on Hollywood Weekly. They've had me on the cover twice. The thing that's crazy fun about being on the cover of a magazine, like you guys get it, as actors, sometimes let's be gentle with this. We're the black sheep of the family. People don't get us. They don't understand. We're the artists. And I actually have a couple brothers that work in corporate. So they're kind of like the 9-to-5ers. And people understand that, and they bring home steady paychecks, and everybody gets it. But when I'm at family things, people are, always kind of worried about me because I'm doing crazy stuff, and they don't know where in the world I'm at. They don't know what I'm up to, and it's kind of mysterious. So one of the cool things that I love about when I'm on a magazine cover is I can bring it home and just give it to my parents and say, hey, I'm actually doing something. And it's hilarious because my mom is just like, she's hilarious. Like she doesn't even know how to tell her friends like what I do for a job, right? She's like, well, he's making pretty good money. I know he's not selling drugs, but I don't know what he's doing, right? Like that's kind of the way it is. So when I can slam down a magazine cover, they're like, oh, people in the world actually like him. And one of my favorite, yeah, isn't it? And one of my favorite experiences actually, so I produced a handful of films as well in the personal development space. And we did a big premiere of one of my first movies. And we had literally in an auditorium, we had like close to 1,700 people that came out to see my movie. And so I brought my mom and dad out. Yeah, thank you. So I brought my mom and dad out to see this so they could see what I do. And it was so funny, but the very first time that I kind of came on stage with a movie like that and 1,700 people, and they were cheering and clapping because they enjoyed the movie, it was like so cool to see that, my parents could see that there's actually people in the real world that appreciate what I do. But I got to laugh. Like, so afterwards, I was talking to my dad, and even though there was 1,700 people there, everybody's got a copy of my DVD by now. They've all just watched it. We did a big red carpet, all this stuff. My dad says to me, he goes, that's pretty cool, but can you make any money at this? I'm like, it's like, oh my gosh. So no matter how successful you are as an artist, you're even going to have those close to you who still don't kind of understand it because they don't know our world, right? They don't know our world at all. Right. Pretty funny.
Right. When you're not on set playing a bad guy or a good guy, what do you do in your spare time?
That's a great question. And by the way, I want to share that I don't think I've ever played a bad guy. Even the bad guys that I've portrayed, the reality is all bad guys think they're a good guy, right? Like every bad guy thinks that he's a good guy.
Right.
Even if you look at Darth Vader, like his whole deal is I want to, bring order to the galaxy and we can rule this together as father and son. Like I want a dad relationship with you and stuff. So if you ask him, are you a bad guy at this story? He goes, no, the rebels are. We got some things we want to do, right? So although I portray a bad guy, the only thing that makes that bad guy believable is that he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Right.
So back to your question, what do I do in my spare time? Man, I got lots of things, but I really love mixed martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I train BJJ all the time. I love to ride motorcycles and fast cars. And I'm single right now, so a lot of my time is dedicated to any pretty girl that gives me attention. So,
hey,
that's kind of
all right.
my life in a nutshell, guys.
Nice. I like this guy, man.
Yeah, that's it, right? So,
so now you do stunt work too, right? So, do you have any? Did you get any bruises that you wear like a badge of honor from stunt work?
Oh, I've done lots of injuries. In fact, this is kind of funny. I had a girlfriend once, believe it or not, I had a girlfriend, it was true. Anyway, so I stripped down to my boxers and she counted all the damage points, like little cuts and scars and where there was gravel and stitches and broken bones and all that stuff. She came up to just over 200. So, yeah, so even though I look kind of pretty on the surface, I'm not as good looking up close, like really up close. And so I have broken bones and I've gotten stitches lots. And in fact, it was funny, even just looking at my hand, I've got a spot here where it was somebody's tooth one time, so we got a little scar there from somebody's tooth. I've got a little scratch on the eye here that got stitched up on the set one time. And so I've had a few good ones, but I don't know. My mom thinks I'm still good looking, so I don't know.
Hey, long as mama believe it.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and like, oh man, this hurts. Oh man, that hurts.
I think anybody that gets old eventually has that.
I mean, yeah, of course. Because I got a knee that's been bothering me.
Well, it's like sometimes when you have injury, especially when it's like cold or, just when you've been using that part for, a lot, you have like this agonizing pain. It's like, okay, I need a massage.
Oh, yeah. And I'll never say no to a massage. Never, ever say no to a massage. But you know what? They say sometimes with certain injuries, you can predict the weather. So it's kind of like, hey, my ear hurt. It's going to snow today, guys. Or whatever. That kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think we all got that. And to be honest with you, I don't think you have to be a stuntman to come up with injuries. In fact, some of the worst injuries that I've ever seen on movie sets were stupid things like people tripping over cables or stepping backwards off an apple box or stuff like that. And then they break their wrist or something. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody off of movies because we all love making movies. Injuries, this is a very rare thing. If you're a professional athlete, you've got far more injuries than we'll ever have as stunt guys. And even me doing mixed martial arts, I have far fewer injuries than my friends who are like football players or whatever. In fact, I think probably the king of injuries, like I've got a couple friends that used to fight in the WWE. And my grandpa was a wrestler as well. And so one of my friends, no kidding, he busted bones in his vertebrae and stuff. And he's like, they're like those guys, they take a beating. But I mean, if you hit somebody with a chair or a ladder or you jump off of these high ropes and give somebody an elbow, you're bound to go amiss a few times because those guys, they're creating violence in the ring or what looks like violence, right? So they get it far worse, far worse.
I was just about to mention that too. When you said the crazy incident where I know Steve Nash said before his last year in basketball, he was carrying a bag and I forgot, he said something broke. I think it was, I can't remember exactly what it was. But after that, he said that was it. And you mentioned wrestling. I was about to say The Undertaker and Mankind. Like you can look at their synopsis and they have everything. I know Undertaker has his vertebrae that got messed. Well, no, his not vertebrae, his orbital bone. When he first started off, a lot of that. So you're right about wrestlers and athletes. Their bones are just like, yeah. And before we get to the next question, I'm sorry. You said a tooth was right there. Right
on my knuckle. I caught somebody's tooth and it just tore my skin ripped. So I got a good nice scar there. Actually, one scar that I regret. Okay, this is one that I regret, and it's regret not doing. So I was in South Africa a couple of years ago, and we were on a safari tour, and we saw these lion cubs all sleeping, just the cubs, right? So we got off this little truck with a bunch of friends, and I had some friends like looking to see if there's any mama lions around. Nobody saw nothing. So I went and I did some push-ups over this baby lion, and I was talking about it like as I was doing it and stuff. And then this other lion cub kept trying to like bite my hands. So I was like, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. I should have let him bite me. That would have been the best all-time scar to just talk to all these chicks and say, see that? That was a lion. That was a lion that got me. But I didn't let him, and I should have, and I've regretted it to this day. So I don't know. It is what it is.
That'll be a great conversation starter.
It definitely would have. Like,
You could have just added on the story.
A lion.
A pack of lions.
Yeah, so just a little, what do they call them, a pride. So they were baby lions. The mama was probably nearby, but I didn't see her. But we were doing, like, there was about 4 or 5 of them just laying there. So I did some push-ups over a baby lion. But you know what? I'll put that video on YouTube because I've never done that. And then people can come and take a look at it.
Cool.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
See,
yeah, doing the push-ups over a lion is probably not a great idea, but putting the video up is a good idea.
The video, yeah, the video. Not the
Video proof.
The things we do for social media. Everybody,
Right?
everybody else is taking pictures of their lunch and kitty cats. And I'm showing you, I gotta do a video with a lion.
I gotta find a lion somewhere.
But you know what? It could have easily gone south. Like, you know, those videos that show people who try to do selfies and then they back up off the side of that huge cliff or whatever and they're dead. That could have gone that way too. Like, we could have all gotten eaten by a bunch of lions. Like, wouldn't that have been interesting, right? That's embarrassing.
But so, you know, you set the bar so high, you're going to have people trying to find lions and tigers and bears to take pictures over and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I got a cool picture. We went to this kind of place in Thailand, and I got some pictures of me with a bunch of different kind of lions, the white tiger, or no, so it was all tigers. Siberian tigers, white tigers, tiger babies, all that. And I got this really awesome one. It's kind of a bit fake, so I'll give it away now, but when you see the picture, it looks spectacular. The tiger started yawning, right? Like, and so I like went beside him, and it looks like we're both roaring, but it's not a real roar. He's just yawning, but we just happened to catch the picture at the right moment. So it's like so perfect.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
I love white tigers. Those are my favorite.
Cool.
Being men of many hats and travel many places, right? Do you have what's the most breathtaking place you ever visited?
Wow, that's a great question. There's many locations that I really like, but for different reasons. I think probably one of the strangest places, like I lived in China for a year. I was doing a TV show over there on China TV. I co-hosted a TV show. So they would take us all sort of different tourism spots, all the audios that, like if you go to the Great Wall, the audio that's like, welcome to the Great Wall of China, where for centuries, the Chinese emperor, this is me. I did all the audios for those. So they took me all over China. And one of the places I went to that was really neat was called Wutaishan, which is the 5 Peaks Mountain. And that was just incredible. They say it's the birthplace of Buddhism. While I was there, I also went to another place called Huanshan Mountains. And you've probably seen from time to time on the internet, those like mountains that look like fingers up through the clouds. That's that place. And that was spectacular. And that was super neat to see. But I have to admit, although I love nature and everybody talks about nature, I'm also a city boy. So some of my favorite cities, like I'm in London, England all the time. Shout out to London. It's one of my favorite cities on the planet. I love the energy that's there. I love New York. You know, I love LA. I love big cities and that energy that goes with it. Yeah. So what's the most breathtaking view? Okay, now here's my romantic pitch to hopefully find a good girlfriend. It'll be who I'm with, not where I'm at.
Hey.
Right?
You can't go wrong with that answer. You can't go wrong with that answer, ladies.
There you go. Yeah. That's the line right there.
They're gonna be in your DM, Mr. Douglas.
What's that?
They're gonna be in your DM, Mr. Douglas. When we drop this, they're gonna be.
I love that. I love that. But you know what? Seriously, I'm not being jokey or anything. The truth is, I know I'm a hopeless romantic. And maybe that's part of my problem is I do believe that, you know, there are happy endings and not the one at the end of the massage you have to pay for. I'm talking about like a happy ending that is a forever after. And, you know, I'm sure that even my family would appreciate that because I got 3 brothers. They're all married. They got tons of kids. I'm the only one that's flying solo still. And so I know my family's praying for me every day to find that magical one. But I am too. Because I think that, you know, there's so much in life to share. And even though, going back to your question, I've seen some really cool things on the planet, you can only take so many selfies. And when you get home, nobody wants to look at your home movies. So you got to have somebody that's there with you that you can share that with. And so that's something that I look forward to one day. And I'm sure it'll happen when it's supposed to. I trust the world, the universe, God, all that stuff. They'll help me find the right one.
Yes.
Yeah, when the right one comes, she comes for you. And
and you know what? She's probably getting ready for me too right now.
There you go.
That's it, right?
Yeah, I'll be telling myself that too. I said I need her to hurry and break up with that idiot, so I can be blessed with her.
You saw that girl too, eh?
Yeah, I saw it, man.
I actually just met this really cute girl, and we were laughing our guts out. It was so funny. And then as she goes to get my number in her phone, her screensaver is her and some other dude. I'm like, wait a minute, we got to get rid of that guy. Anyways,
That's my brother.
one of my friends says life is kind of like soccer. He goes, God, I should maybe say this, but he's like, you can still score even when there's a goalie. You know that, right? But anyways, I'm not looking just to score. That's cheap. I get it. I get it. I'm looking for the real deal. I'm looking for a true connection. I get it.
Yes.
Amen to that, brother.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So now you're good guy or bad guy,
Right.
and you are creating your own film. Who else would you cast in the part in these different parts of your blockbuster?
Wow, that's a great question because I've got a ton of heroes. Unfortunately, many of these heroes already passed away. But there's I'm an old school movie guy. So when I went to film school, I fell in love with a ton of the classics and everything else. Like, honestly, at the top of the list would have been somebody like Marlon Brando, of course. But those that are living, people like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Actually, I've met Richard Dreyfuss a bunch of times. We talked to a friend of his this week, and he's interested to do a show with me, so I want to do something with him. I mean, the list is just endless of people I admire. Obviously, Harrison Ford would be incredible to do something with. You know, there's so many legends in film. Like, I would have loved to do something with Robin Williams, for example. That would have been incredible. Yeah. Right? I love Samuel Jackson and Morgan Freeman are incredible actors to me. I mean, they're just solid people. It's funny because I'm listing all males, but there's a lot of females that I'd love to act with. But the problem is I'd be naming all my crushes, right? So,
hey, shoot your shot, man. You never know.
Right?
Hey, Salma Hayek, I want to do something with you. We met briefly, actually, on a red carpet one time, but I would love to do a movie with her for sure. I think she's incredible. Julia Roberts.
Selma Hayek is my. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. That was my.
No, I get it. I get it, brother. I get
it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You said Julia Roberts as well. Okay.
Oh, you know, even people like Rosario Dawson and
very
beautiful. I mean, I gotta be careful because some of the women I'd also name are married and stuff, so I don't want to get hate mail from the hubby saying, "Listen, what's going on, brother? You're not getting in that movie. I'm gonna watch you." Right? Like, I gotta be careful about this.
Like, watch this guy.
The reality is even though they're good-looking people, I think they're also very talented and creative people, and I think that they would up my game. I think that's one thing about acting is, you know, I noticed as I've acted in films with people far more talented than me, that my game stepped up. And so in some cases, some of these people I would be selecting, not just because they're heroes, but because they're incredibly talented people. And I don't know, I just think I could learn so much from them, right?
I agree.
You know, Michael Caine is another one I would love to act with, even though he claimed he retired, but I don't know, if we could find the right movie, I'm sure we could get him out.
I think it's
Clint Eastwood too. Even though Clint Eastwood is like in his 90s, like he's still got game. It's like, yeah, he's a legend. Like, you want to work with that guy for sure.
I think Michael Caine's birthday just recently passed, and Clint Eastwood is you don't know, you never know. He's still directing. You know, you never know.
That's right. Yeah, actually, I do art, so I sent him a picture, and he was kind enough to send me a letter back and all these things. That was cool. But you know, I'd love to do a movie with Clint Eastwood where he just basically says, "Get off my lawn," right? Like, just something like that would be enough, right? I'd be like, yes,
That's how
sir.
you
Dirty
Right on
Harry.
that. Right?
That
It'd
movie
be
Gran
so
Turismo.
awesome.
That movie Gran Turismo, he was on. And it was like, man.
Oh, for real. It's one of my faves.
That is, yeah. He was a grumpy old man.
Yeah, but he did it so well. He's just a legend. Like that guy is like, oh my gosh, so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you just gotta look at you and it's like, that's awesome. I can die now.
Now you also got to share the screen with Tom Sizemore, rest in peace.
I did.
What was it like meeting and working with him?
He was awesome. In fact, you know what's crazy is one of the last texts on my phone. I had another project we're doing. In fact, I'll see if I got a picture from it. It's called How to Be a Hitman 101. So that's me as the hitman in it. And this is still in production, so it's about to come out. But I was texting back and forth with Tom, and I showed him some production stills with it, and I said, "We've already got a deal for the sequel. Are you ready to come out?" And his text is almost verbatim. It's like, "I love this. I want to come out. No problem. We'll do it." And so I sent him back, "I'll get you a script, all this stuff." And the very last words that I got from him by text was "great." And then the last one I sent back is, "You're in our prayers. I hope everything works out." And of course it didn't. But my time with Tom was really cool. So, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to share on this, but it just speaks to his personality, which was really cool. So he came on the set. I hadn't met him before. So literally within 10 minutes, I had a scene with him coming up. And no kidding, he looks at the script and he goes, "Yeah, I'm not super digging this." He's like, "Do you want to improv this? Can you improv this?" And I've done lots of cops before. So playing an FBI guy that was busting him wasn't a big deal. So I said, "Yeah, I'll improv this with you." But what's funny is I spent all this time kind of learning these lines and stuff. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, let's throw the script out." Bam. And so we improv'd and it just went super fabulous. Like it was absolutely incredible. And what's funny is when you see that show, and I'm not allowed to talk too much about it, but the paperwork that I throw on the desk when I come in, I sit down, "This is gonna be a shitty day for you." And I throw the script down and he goes, "Oh yeah, really?" I go, "Yeah, really." Well, that sheet that I threw down, that's all the script. That's the script. I threw it down and we're just like, "Yeah, we ain't touching this." So it was kind of funny. But the thing that was neat about it is afterwards, as we kind of like completed that scene, we went out and sat on this balcony area while the crew and everybody were there. And no kidding, he said, "You did such a great job, man. I'd love to keep in touch." And I gave him my number and we chatted for a while. And all of a sudden the phone rings. And on it, it says Bobby. I don't know who the heck that is. But he picks it up. Well, what he did is he picks it up and then he puts it on speaker. And I hear this voice that I totally recognize, but I couldn't place it. You know, it's just out of context for me, right? And he's like, "How's things going on the movie there?" And he said what he felt about the movie. I won't get too far into that. But he said what he felt about this movie and stuff. And then he said, "I got this kid here who just did this awesome improv with me. He's awesome. Say hello." Then all of a sudden, as I'm talking, I recognized the voice and it was Robert De Niro. And so it was like, oh my gosh. Wow. And it turned out that I guess Robert De Niro is the godfather of one of Tom's kids. And so they're super buddies. Remember, they met on the set of Heat. Well, they might have met before then, but they did that movie together. And I guess they've become really good friends. And so, yeah, it was like totally surreal. It was just like weird, but it was cool, right? Something I'll never forget.
That is cool.
It is.
Yeah, it was neat.
I love Robert De Niro.
Yeah, he'll probably never really remember me, but for me, that was a really big deal.
That was one of the moments.
Yeah, that is an awesome moment. And we actually know a few people who actually work with Tom Sizemore too, and he impacted a lot of people because of the work and who he was often behind the screens and on the screens. So I mean, that was
definitely.
Really
and you know, the thing that I noticed is a lot of people talked about his personal demons, and I think that's the wrong way to remember him, because we all got demons. Here's the deal: don't judge me because I sin differently than you. We all do. We all got problems, man. But here's the deal that I noticed with him is he was so kind and attentive to people. Anybody on that set that said, "Hey, can I get a quick picture with you?" and stuff, he was there. He did it. Wow. And he did it with a smile on his face, and he was cool to everybody. And so, you know, I really have a lot of respect for that. And when I meet actors like that, like, I try to be kind to everybody, but I get it. Sometimes I'm grumpy like everybody else and I have days. But when I see guys like that do that, it reminds me, man, you got to remember where you come from. And you got to remember that you're here making a movie because these people want to watch your movies. The minute they don't want to watch you become irrelevant. You ain't going to do much. So, yeah, I think you got to just remember you're working with people here, and you should never get too big in your head to like send people away. I think that's the wrong idea.
Right.
I agree on that. Perfectly said.
Completely. Definitely unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly said. Last final question. We'll get you out of here. So if you were to give back to the community or film or whatever, what would you do and why?
Well, you know what's funny is we do actually give back to the community already. We have a bit of a mission. Yeah. First of all, wherever we are, we give to a lot of the food banks and stuff like that, and the homeless places. And one of the reasons for that, by the way, is because I've got a lot of actor friends that were really on top or doing well, and then all of a sudden they're stuck. And I know a couple of actors who even wound up homeless, which was terrible. So we give to that. But the real big one that I give to is actually the children's hospitals. So we give a ton to the children's hospitals. And the reason why is super simple. So I've got a couple of family members. So I have technically 2 sons, and both of them have been through the children's. One of them was born with a cystic hygroma in his neck, a fontanelle that didn't close, an umbilical hernia. Like, he was falling apart on the way out. Like, seriously, he arrived and he needed immediate glue and tape. And then the other kid had problems with one of his eyes was kind of not right. So he had to have a surgery, and then he had to have tubes in his ears. And so we spent a lot of times at the children's fixing that stuff. But the one that really gets me is I've got 3 younger brothers, and the brother that's just 11 months younger than me, they had a son. And when the son was 18 months old, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And so my brother and his wife technically spent just tons and tons of time in the hospital, literally almost living there. And he had 2 other girls too. So they were trying to like get these other kids to school, yet be there for their son and everything else. And, you know, I used to visit regularly too. And then I remember one day I got a phone call saying, you know, this little boy's name is Braden, that Braden just passed. And so I rushed over to the children's hospital. I'll never forget, the nurses brought this little baby and they passed him all around for us to hold him for the very last time. And that was really special.
Yeah.
But where it got interesting is when we went to the funeral, my brother had him dressed in this little tuxedo. Again, remember this little baby, he's like 18 months. I still remember in this little white tuxedo and this baby casket, my brother took his favorite Hot Wheels car and put it in his hands. And then when we closed the lid, we went into the church where the funeral was going to happen. But you know what? All the nurses that had served our family were already there in the group. They were there at the funeral. They came out on their day off to be with us. And so, like, no kidding, ever since that time, whenever we're doing either a film or some kind of an event or there's something going on, we try to incorporate and give the children's hospital something back. And we do that at the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, England as well. And we do it in my city here. And so whatever city we go to, we adopt a hospital. And there was even one hospital where, no kidding, we will go in and we will visit the kids there and stuff. One of my friends was the Red Power Ranger, so he sometimes comes in costume and stuff. Right? And it was pretty neat. It's pretty neat. But there was one little boy too that he really wanted to get out and see the Spider-Man movie, the ones with Tobey Maguire. And this boy had been burned, like physically burned. And his mom dropped him off at the hospital when he was about 3, and she never came back. So he kind of lived there, and he didn't really have anybody that was part of his family. So I got to be tight with this kid, and he was a super cool kid, just like super cool. And I kind of opened my big mouth and I said to him, when Spider-Man comes out, I'm going to take you. And the nurse calls me over. She's like, you got to come over here. She goes, he can't leave this place. You can't take him. So I felt totally bad, right? I felt super bad. So I ended up talking to some people that I know that were involved in that film and doing some stunt work and all kinds of other stuff. And I ended up getting a Spider-Man costume. And I came back and we got silly string and I got him a Spider-Man suit. We spent the whole day just spraying everybody, especially that nurse who told me I couldn't take the kid. And then a couple of years later, he died. And so we dressed him as Spider-Man and put him in that casket. And I got to be a pallbearer as Spider-Man. And it was a really incredible, non-forgettable experience. And so I love to do stuff like that. You know, it's interesting that making movies is really, really fun. We know this. And when we're on set, of course, the people that are there, they're used to making movies. So there's no kind of like, I mean, they're there to do a job. We're there to do a job. We do our job and move on. But when we get to go to meet people who've enjoyed the movies, or it's been a life-changing experience, or we can touch people because of, you know, the things we've been involved in, that's where it makes a difference. And so I really love even, you know, when I go to the Comic Cons or the fan expos to meet friends and people that enjoy the film. And notice I call them friends, not fans. They're friends. They enjoy the movies, right? That we've done. And so, you know, wherever we can, we try to give back. And it's just like, again, without those people, we wouldn't be doing what we do.
Right.
Right.
There's this
That's awesome.
there's this story that stuck with me. Johnny Depp, right? He
Right.
a children's hospital, and he would dress as Captain Sparrow
That's right.
and walk through the halls. And there was a kid that he had cancer, and he wanted to be a filmmaker, a director, and he casted Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp did it for free.
That's totally awesome. And you know what, that's interesting too, is that I've done a lot of student films for free. And we found a way to get around some of the union rules just to be able to do that sometimes. And if someone asks me to do a film, if I'm available and my schedule permits for students, I'll often hop out. And I've done quite a few student films, and they're super fun. I mean, they're not going to wind up in the theater maybe, but they go to festivals. But more than kind of what they do is they inspire this filmmaker to go out and be artistic and to follow their dream. And I think, you know, the one big thing, you know, I mean, people are going to be watching your podcasts, and not just mine, but all the other people that you're going to be bringing on. And I think the big message that we should all be sharing is you guys are the future of film. I mean, we love doing this. I love making movies. I know people believed in me and gave me opportunities, and that's what allowed me to get where I am and get where I'm going. But you too can make a movie. And the thing that is just so amazing is that nowadays the technology is so accessible. There's so many platforms. I mean, you can put stuff even up on YouTube for free. You don't even have to go seeking a distribution agreement. You can shoot it on your phone or your iPad, and the software to edit is all there. And there's tons of opportunities. So there's really no excuse to not be creative. And the reality is, if you say, well, my first movie, it's so hard to do. You know what? Everything that's worth doing is hard at first. Every master was once a disaster. So don't worry about getting it perfect in the beginning. Get it started and then get on to the next one. And even if you do 10 little movies, suddenly number 11 is going to be something special. Or maybe it's not going to take that many, but you got to get started to get in the game.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
That's a
Thank you.
whole mic drop right there, ladies and gentlemen. I love it.
No, mic drop. But I love this industry. And honestly, here's the deal. If you're not out there making movies, I got nothing to watch. So you need to go do something, right? You need to do it.
We need work.
Yeah, right?
We
Like,
all
we
do
need to
extra
do it.
work here, and we all act, and we have a plethora of other things that we do. So we really appreciate what you're saying. Definitely encouraging.
Yeah. Well, you guys are awesome, and make sure you keep acting. That's the key, right?
We'll do, man. We got to act with you. We got to share that screen together, man. I already see it.
Yeah.
I love to do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it. And you know, here's another thing that's maybe interesting, because this weekend I was just at an event, and a bunch of my friends were there. So if you guys remember Claudia Wells, who was Jennifer Parker, Marty McFly's girlfriend in Back to the Future, she was there. Butch Patrick, who was Eddie Munster in the original Munsters TV series, was there. One of my friends who was on Black Panther and Wakanda Forever was there. My other friend Victor, who's the hand in Wednesday, you know, the thing, the hand, he was there. And so a lot of those guys were there. But you know, the thing that's interesting is, I think as a beginning filmmaker, we're like, you know, that world of you know, Hollywood or the big films, it's so far away. I'm going to tell you, it's not as far as you think. And a lot of the people in those positions, they're ready to collaborate on projects. They're ready to get involved with things, and they will reach out. One of my best friends is Sean Kennan, who was in Karate Kid 3, Cobra Kai Season 5, and soon to be 6. He was Mike Barnes, remember? Your karate's a joke, Daniel, right? That guy?
Yeah.
Remember? And Sean's willing to talk about projects all the time.
Yeah.
So even to get to guys like that, it's a lot easier than you think. So if you're out there with an idea to make a movie and you're like, man, I sure wish I could share the screen with so-and-so and everything else, you'd be surprised how often people would be willing to share the screen with you. If you've got a great idea and you're a go-getter, I mean, the film world is a small community. And just the fact that you're a filmmaker, there's already an admiration and a connection that we admire and are grateful that that's the world you've chosen, because you've got that in common with us. That's the world we've chosen. And it's not as, it's like, how do I say this, Kay? So, like, seriously, as an actor, I wasn't super cool in school, right? And what's funny is I even had, like, girls that liked me, and I didn't think I was cool. So, you know, it never worked out super then, right? and you're probably the same way I am in school, right? Being the drama guys or the acting people or the people that have big dreams. We didn't fit in with the mold. We're different than most people. And so when we meet other people that are visionaries like that are dreamers, they're just a little bit crazy like us. And we love that crazy. And so we want to support that because that's where we were and where we still even are. I don't think I've ever grown up. In fact, it's funny, people ask me how old I am, and I say I'm about 11. Right? Like seriously, because it's true, right?
Yeah.
Right? We are,
Yes, sir.
our age is on the inside, never on the outside. And
Yes,
so
sir.
when we meet people that love to play like we do, then we click with them. In fact, it's funny, I had a guy yesterday ask me, what do you do for a living? I didn't really say actor at first. I said, I get to play cops and robbers and I get paid for it, man. That's what I do, right? I never stopped being that cops and robbers guy. So it's cool. It's cool.
Love it, man. A shot of inspiration right there, man. Man, Douglas, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That was beautiful. That was amazing. All that, man. And we thank you for stopping by on the show and talking to us. We, like I said, we're gonna work with each other in the future. And
let's do it.
It's gonna be fun.
Let's do it. Yeah, no, you guys are awesome, and I'm glad you had me on the show. Happy to come back anytime. You guys are great.
Yeah.
So let's work together one of these days. I'll do that. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.